Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video, we get an opportunity to take a quick look at the all-new 2020 BMW X4M competition. Now for this video, I'm going to do things a little bit different. Instead of the full-on, formal, in-depth tour style, I'm going to do somewhat of a hybrid between my pure sound format, which I haven't done in quite a while, as well as a performance-focused review. This thing is wicked to say the least. 503 horsepower from the most powerful road-going BMW six-cylinder to date. Compared to like an X4 M40i, this engine is about 90% new, and of course in traditional M fashion, everything has been changed. The styling's been upgraded a bit to improve cooling and aerodynamics, the suspension and chassis have been significantly beefed up, you have beefier brakes and just all sorts of stuff. There's even some goodies from the M5 in there. The competition brings on a handful of unique additions as well to enhance the already incredible handling and performance that this thing is capable of, but it also features a more aggressive, specially tuned exhaust system. I'm going to kick things off with a cold start with the exhaust valves fully open so you can hear it in its most raw state. Then I'll let it warm up and get a bunch of revs at various angles. Then I'll take it out on the road so you can hear how the engine sounds under load, both inside and outside. And then, of course, I'll go through, give you that quick tour and talk about what makes the X4M special, including the competition package. And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in, start her up, and let her run. The level of sound from the M Sport exhaust system actually changes depending on how you drive, so as you feed more into the throttle, the valves will open up and allow for a more aggressive sound. You can also control the level of sound manually. There's an exhaust button right behind the drive mode select switch right there. With that open, as you go between the different drive modes, specifically Sport and Sport Plus, it'll get louder. Now let's cycle through the three exhaust modes. First, quiet mode. Next, I'll put it in sport mode, where it's a little bit louder. And now for the loudest mode, Sport Plus. Now let's get some more revs in Sport Plus, but at various angles as well as with the door open and closed. So what exactly is the X4? You can think of it as a coupe adaptation of the X3. Now BMW has a huge list of SUVs and crossovers to choose from nowadays, like all shapes and sizes. You got the X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6, and X7. The X7 is the latest, like, full-size flagship SUV. All of the SUVs, with the exception of the X7, have a coupe or sportier adaptation of their traditional counterpart. They're denoted by an even number, so X1 versus X2, X3 versus X4, and so on and so forth. So the X4 is basically an X3, just a little bit less practical. I like to think of it as a lifestyle vehicle. You don't buy it for the practicality benefits that you would typically be looking for an SUV. It's driven more by passion and just pure personal interest. It's not for everybody, but if you like something different, something that's, you know, just stands out from the crowd, this is pretty different, especially with the M package. So the M package for the X4 is identical to the M package on the X3, both of which also have competition packages available. But what exactly does the M stand for? The X3M and the X4M are pretty much identical in the performance they're able to deliver. Same thing goes with the available competition package, which increases horsepower by 30. You get beefier anti-roll bars, a little bit different styling tweaks here and there, the M Sport exhaust, larger and wider 21-inch wheels. So it's a bunch of stuff. And of course, you get the leather interior to top it all off, like on the dashboard, the door panels and stuff. It looks really nice. So what exactly does the X4M bring to the table that you can't get in an M40i? So both the X4 M40i and the X4M are powered by 3-liter inline 6-cylinders. However, the two engines are very different from one another. This engine, codenamed S58, has about 90% new parts compared to the M40i for a significant performance advantage. For starters, while the B58 uses a single twin-scroll turbocharger, the S58 has twin single-scroll turbochargers. It also uses complete forged internals, such as the crank, rods, and pistons. It also has a slightly shorter stroke to accommodate a 300 RPM higher redline, 7,300 to be specific. It also helps improve durability at sustained high RPM operation. Of course, a lot more went into this engine, but what does all of this actually mean? Well, the M40i produces 335 horsepower. The X4M in its standard form produces 473 horsepower, accompanied by 442 pound-feet of torque. One turbocharger is feeding cylinders 1 through 3, the other one 4 through 6. They're churning out 17.4 psi of boost. However, if you go for the competition package, you get 30 additional horsepower, so it brings the grand total to 503, courtesy of extra boost, 18.9 psi. Peak torque for the competition models remains the same at 442, however it's available across a wider RPM spread. 0 to 60 takes as little as 4.1 seconds for the regular and about 4 seconds for the competition. And here's a little fun fact for you. Obviously, the front end is pretty aggressive. It allows a lot of air to help cool various components, but there's actually 5 radiators located up front, including dedicated radiators for both engine oil and transmission cooling. I really like how this thing drives overall. There's a little bit of turbo lag down in the lower rev range, but once those things start cooking, it pulls really hard. Like I said, 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds. It feels quicker than that, I swear. That all-wheel drive system really bites, and the 8-speed automatic is just fantastic. It sings off shifts just as quick as a dual clutch. It's very responsive, especially with the paddle shifters and the rev matching downshifts, and you have the drive logic system. So I've talked about this plenty in previous BMW reviews, but there are so many different drive modes and customization options in these vehicles nowadays that you can totally customize every single aspect of the driving experience. Powertrain, suspension, steering, transmission, traction control, just all sorts of stuff. And if you have, your significant other driving the vehicle often, there's 2 preset buttons on the steering wheel, M1 and M2, so each of you can customize all the parameters to your own liking and then store them, so instead of having to readjust it all the time, you just hit 1 or 2 and you're on your way. But I digress. On top of the shifter, you have the drive logic system. So there's 3 modes to change the shifting algorithm. So in the first setting, it's more day-to-day type use, smooth shifts, quiet and all that stuff. Then as you go into level 2 and level 3, the shifts get held longer, they become quicker, and the third one is just an absolute riot. It is like, I mean, it's so much fun. I love it. Power is harnessed by an electronically controlled 8-speed automatic transmission with a set of steering wheel paddle shifters. This is the same transmission used in the new BMW M5. It's also synced up with a rear-biased permanent all-wheel drive system that you can actually adjust through the traction control settings to make it actually even more rear-biased, so you can have controlled drifts and stuff. But unlike the M5, it doesn't have a rear-wheel drive mode. Being that the all-wheel drive system is rear-biased, it's only really shuffling torque up front as needed to help maintain a proper level of traction depending on which drive mode and settings you have selected. Helping further facilitate torque control at the rear axle is the same electronically controlled limited slip differential that you would find in the BMW M5. As far as the suspension, the X4M receives a bunch of upgrades to give it quite a handling advantage over a regular X4. So you still have the same core independent suspension design, but you have additional chassis bracing all over the place to really firm things up. Stiffer springs, retuned dampers, retuned bushings, just, all the extra accessory stuff to just enhance the original design of the suspension. And I'll tell you what, this thing handles way sharper than you would think. The electric power steering feels pretty good. There's not a ton of feel, but you can adjust the firmness through the various drive modes, which is nice. But I mean, this thing is so agile and responsive. I mean, it's darty. Like, it doesn't feel like a big, heavier SUV. It drives very much like a sports car. It's very, very surprising. There is one downside to having all of that great handling though: ride quality and road noise. It does hit the road kind of rough, especially over harsher roads like broken pavement and stuff. There are adaptive dampers though, so if you keep it in comfort, it's a pretty good blend. Like, it's not uncomfortable by any means, but if you put it in Sport and Sport Plus, depending on the quality of the pavement, you'll notice a pretty big difference. The wheel and tire package on the standard X4M consists of 20 by 8-inch wheels in front and 20 by 9.5-inch wheels in the rear. They're wrapped in 255/45 and 265/45 tires respectively. On the competition package, you have 21-inch wheels that are 9.5 inches wide in front and 10 inches wide in the rear. The tires, 255/40s and 265/40s respectively. As far as the brakes, you have huge internally ventilated cross-drilled discs at all four corners. They span 15.6 inches in front and 14.6 inches in the rear. The calipers are 4-piston and single-piston respectively, of course painted the M's signature blue. Well everyone, that is going to wrap it up for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed. Please don't forget to leave a like below because it really helps the videos a lot. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so because there's always a lot more content where that came from. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.